Welcome to this week's Eternal Monday, where Banette Vileplume takes on Wugtrio Mill from Scarlet and Violet base set. Today's game comes from the May 2025 in real life Eternal Format tournament that took place at Dragon's Lair at Alamo Ranch here in San Antonio, Texas. If you're new here, you might be wondering what the Eternal Format even is. In short, it's the unlimited format with a ban list. This means that deck builders can venture all the way back to the very start of the Pokemon trading card game and make use of cards that aren't legal in the official standard or even the expanded format. This large card pool creates an exciting and fun, rich deck building experience that can be endlessly enjoyable for all types of players of the Pokemon trading card game. From the most skilled to the newest of new, from the biggest tryhard to the kitchen table champion, the Eternal Format has something for everyone. Unsure where to get started? I've got a getting started video on this very YouTube channel that is a great crash course for how to get into the format. Additionally, there is now a page on justinbasil.com that features a wide variety of decks for the Eternal Format. Both this page and the Getting Started video are linked in this video's description. Now, on to today's game. Today's game is coming from round one of the May 2025 in real life Eternal Format tournament that took place here at Dragon's Lair at Alamo Ranch. We see both of our players getting their decks set up. Here on the left, we have our Banette player, and on the right, we have our Wugtrio Mill player. So our Wugtrio player is going first. They've chosen to put down the Victory Star Victini. That's Fliptini. It allows you to completely reflip all coins associated with an attack that you've done, which could be very useful for this Wugtrio deck because you're reliant on coin flips for your attack to mill cards from your opponent's deck. Here on the Banette side, we have a Baltoy in the active spot, and as well as an Oddish and a Shuppet. Not the best start having that Baltoy in the active, not the worst either, but you would definitely rather have a Shuppet in the active spot if you could. Looks like the turn's been passed over to the Wugtrio player. Going straight in with Team Rocket's handiwork, going for a couple of coin flips there. If I remember right, they erroneously believed that Fliptini would allow them to reflip that, but I corrected that in the middle of the game. Either way, that was just the two cards milled there. So to have the Banette EX and a couple of Gloom in hand. I'm going to use that Gloom ability most likely to evolve up the Oddish on the bench. The Gloom there is from 151, lets you look at the top several cards of the deck, and I think it's 3. And then if there's an enters there, you can attach to one of your Pokemon. It usually misses in this deck, but it's one of those things where it's like an extra accelerator, so you might as well run it, might as well have access to it just in case. To see a Guzmahala. Guzmahala was also milled off the top of the deck from that Team Rocket's handiwork. Guzmahala discarding another Gloom from 151 and a rare candy. Player here is going to get a few cards. We got Floatstone, the Grand Tree, and a Horror Psychic Energy. Horror Psychic, I have to imagine, is going to be attached to the Banette. Yep, there it is. And then Floatstone would be on the, on Baltoy. So they're going to just hit into the Wiglet there with the first attack on Banette, which is that Everlasting Darkness, which does 30 damage. And then Grand Tree, I think, is now being used to level up, or not level up, but evolve up that Baltoy into Claydol. Interestingly, chose not to use it, it looks like. They'll just hit into the Wiglet. And then our Wugtrio player here is going to go ahead and Grand Tree also, choosing to evolve one of their Wiglet, as I recall. Unfortunately, our Wugtrio player did prize both of their Claydols, which is really, really rough when you're in this deck and you need to be able to swing every single turn and get cards very, very quickly. You basically need both of those Claydol out. But they're trying anyway. They're champions. They got that Wugtrio down. One move that our Banette player made, and I called them out right immediately after because I was so confused by it. They played down the Burning Shadows Vileplume on a Gloom that could have evolved into an item lock Gloom, or an item lock Vileplume rather, and you'll see here right after this end, they could have gotten the Vileplume that they needed to item lock their opponent. I was so confused, and their logic for doing it was basically, well, I mean, they're not going to knock me out anyway, which to me just doesn't make any sense. But you do you. definitely should have been an item lock there. We do see the Poltergeist knocking out that Wugtrio. Wugtrio still pretty squishy. Didn't get a chance to take a knockout there, but Twins is going to do some stuff. Twins lets this player search their deck for just 2 cards because their opponent is currently ahead on prize cards. So here we see a Zelf and Boost Energy. Boost Energy is going to be able to attach to an evolution Pokemon to serve as 3 colorless energy, which is very good for Wugtrio. Wugtrio definitely needs that. We also see the Azelf there. Azelf pulling a Claydol from the prize cards. Absolutely massive for the Wugtrio player. The Wugtrio player definitely needs draw, and there it is. Claydol now out and available. We see a Curse Shovel on the Wugtrio. The Grand Tree getting, sorry, the Wiglet. Grand Tree making it a Wugtrio shortly after I said that incorrectly. That Curse Shovel is still there though. Ditto Prism Start coming down also. Boost Energy being attached to the active Wugtrio. So now it can attack this turn. Looks like we see a decision being made here on what to put at the bottom of the deck to make use of Claydol's Cosmic Power, Poke Power. Gonna draw several cards there. Get another Wiglet down. Always a good thing to do when you are trying to set your board up for next turn as a Wiglet or a Wugtrio player. And then we see an absolutely devastating triple heads flip from Wugtrio, discarding 9 cards from the top of the Banette Vileplume player's deck. That is never something you want to see, and yet it has happened to the Vileplume player. It's going to make it even harder for them to do what they want to do. They are still going to be able to take knockouts. Lusamine is going to give them some of those supporters back, so they're not completely out of luck, but at the same time, maybe not where they wanted to be. They wanted to see about getting another Oddish down, start getting up and getting item locked down to try to slow down this Wugtrio player. Definitely late in the game because they did make the mistake earlier of evolving to the Burning Shadows Vileplume. But all the same. All right, we have a knockout, but another 2 cards are going to be discarded by Curse Shovel, including a Lapras from Legend Maker, which is pretty rough. We do see a Wiglet come down with the Curse Shovel. I believe there was it's Boost Energy cannot be attached to a basic Pokemon, so that triple acceleration is the same way. No. We have to evolve first. We do have our Wugtrio player needing to make a decision about how to get this Pokemon evolved so that they can attach energy. We see a Versus Seeker, Twins coming out. Twins, super good card here. Twins going to find them just 2 cards because their opponent is still ahead on prize cards, naturally. We do see a Rescue Carrier. That would be very good, getting them a couple Pokemon back with very low HP. So those Wugtrio and Wiglet, for example, will come right back. Also see a Versus Seeker. Gonna get them a Twins next turn, if I had to imagine. All right, we see the Rescue Carrier getting Wugtrio and Wugtrio, evolving both Wugtrio. So I believe that was a Ditto Prism, actually, that was evolving there. And the active Wiglet. We do see the Boost Energy finally being able to attach correctly to the active Wugtrio. So now that Wugtrio can attack, which is very good. We are going to see some more coin flips there. We see a heads, and a heads. Holy crap. Once again, 9 discarded from the top of the deck, including some rather valuable cards for our Banette player. Banette player, thankfully, is set up enough to take knockouts, but at this point, that Wugtrio deck is burning through his deck very, very quickly, making his resources quite low. See that Vileplume from Undaunted on the top of his discard pile there. A little sketchy. Play down an Oddish question mark? Maybe not. Just going to go straight for the end, causing both players to shuffle their hands into their decks. Our Wugtrio player is going to draw 6 cards, and then our Banette Vileplume player will draw just 4, once they have taken a couple of prize cards. They are going to knock out that Wugtrio, and once again, because of the Curse Shovel, they're going to also have to discard 2 cards from the top of their deck, including that Luxury Ball that we see now on top of their discard pile. It is now the Wugtrio player's turn once again. See a Buddy Poffin come down, getting another Wiglet into play, which is very good. Make sure they can have one available for next turn as needed. See an energy attachment on the active Wugtrio. No Curse Shovel this time, though, which is unfortunate, but maybe not necessary. There is going to be a POW hand extension, pulling that Burning Shadows Vileplume to the active spot, basically saying, you know what, I don't think you can get this out of the active spot, so haha. Which is pretty nasty. If you aren't familiar with POW hand extension. It's basically similar to Counter Catcher, but it has an alternate effect that you could use instead, which is to move an energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon to another of their Pokemon, which can really, really mess up some decks, especially if they're reliant on a specific special energy. Alrighty, we are going to see Twins now. So our player here is fairly well set up. Looks like we got a special charge, and I'm going to assume they're going to go for a rescue carrier if one is available, but there may not be one. There's just a field blower. Very interesting. Going for a field blower instead of a rescue carrier here. So special charge is going to shove a couple of boost energy back into the deck. Very good. They'll be available for next turn as necessary. Level ball going to sift through the deck, grab there a Wugtrio from the deck to make it available for next turn. And I have to imagine it's an attack. That's a heads, and a tails. And that's going to be a 6. So 1, 2, 4, 6. I think that leaves the player here with just one card. Yep, that is indeed just one card left in their deck. So now they have nothing, and they can do nothing because they can't get that Vileplume out of the X spot with no resources. And that's going to be game. The Wugtrio player felt that defeat early on, carried through anyway, took the W. What a game. That poor Vileplume player. 9, 9, and 6. Those rolls were so good, I genuinely considered asking the Wugtrio player to change dice. It's impressive, but I did watch her throughout the rest of the tournament, and that same die got lots of tails too. Just happened to be absolutely insane rolls for this particular game. Up first for our deck profiles here, we have the very well-known Banette. This list is a little bit older in terms of where it sits from the meta. This is back when Banette was focused on trying to get Grand Tree back with Lusamine, recycling supporters in the same way. The list has shifted more toward a little bit more draw support heavy than this version of the list, but all the same, this is a fairly well-known version of the list. It's been around as of about 6 months ago. You still have your 3 Vileplume that are all very important. You have your Water Oddish, so you can use it off of Brooklet Hill, or get it off of Brooklet Hill for decks that play Brooklet Hill. A lot of decks are liking that because you can get your water Pokemon out. You have stuff like Blastoise Water Box or Palkia that both run it. You're also running the fighting type Baltoy for the same reason. And then you have your main attacker, which of course is Banette, with that Everlasting Darkness and Poltergeist attack. Poltergeist doing 60 damage for each trainer card you find in your opponent's hand. Super, super simple deck. Very fun to play, but super well known at this point for the Eternal Format. A little less well-known is Wugtrio Mill. Wugtrio Mill, of course, has that 3 energy attack that allows you to flip 3 coins and discard 3 cards off the top of your opponent's deck for each head that you flip, which for our Wugtrio player today was super potent. This deck also runs both Glimwood Tangle and Victini. You have to choose one or the other if you're going to reflip, but either one would allow you to reflip if you do not do so hot. So for example, if you're using Wugtrio's attack, you don't flip any heads, you could say, all right, I'm going to use Victory Star and go ahead and reflip those. Or alternatively, you could use Glimwood Tangle and do the same thing and reflip those 3 coins, giving you a higher chance of actually getting some mill done. Just like a lot of the other decks I was talking about earlier with Water Box and Palkia, this deck also runs Brooklet Hill, which means that if Brooklet Hill is in play, that Banette deck can of course get its Oddish, it can get its Baltoy. This deck also runs Baltoy and Claydol. Claydol is 100% the most common draw Pokemon in the Eternal Format, and it's because it is just so powerful. But otherwise, this deck is also fairly straightforward. It's basically just mill, mill, mill. You have your Cursed Shovels. Cursed Shovels, of course, when Pokemon's knocked out, you get those cards milled from the top of the deck. Eco Arm lets you recycle some tool cards. And both Triple Acceleration Energy and Boost Energy act as triple colorless, which means you're getting your attacks off when you need to. Anyway, that is all for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'll see you again in the next video.